John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down! Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, Sooners win it 49-31 over the University of Houston. Jalen Hurts has his debut, and it is a massive one. And Alex Grinch makes his debut as the defensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners. And I would say mixed reviews, but lots of ups and downs. We welcome in the entire crew: Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przbillo, and I said entire crew. I didn't even bother calling Josh for this because I knew he didn't want to. I mean, it is 1:45.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's 1:45 in the morning. Come on.
I knew he wanted no part of this. He's going to act like he does, though. He's going to be like,
oh, yeah, he should have called me.
Yeah.
In theory, the Sunday night game sounds awesome.
Uh-huh.
Should have just played on Saturday. Now that we're staring
11.
Monday morning in the face. Yeah.
If yesterday would have been more exciting, like, I just felt like, I mean, I was like, one of the 7 deadly sins is sitting around watching college football all day on Saturday.
We got screwed with a terrible
the Oregon-Auburn
slate of
game was great.
You had to wait till 11 o'clock.
I enjoyed watching OSU on Friday night. I mean, just getting to see Spencer Sanders for the first time. I didn't get to watch anything of Austin Kendall because I didn't know where the hell that game was. Was that like pay-per-view West Virginia?
Was it ESPN Plus? Was that was that one of the first games?
I saw a highlight. It said like AT&T something. It was on some weird, I don't know what that, I mean, James Madison couldn't have the rights to that damn game. There's no way. So, I mean, it was just kind of You know what I did realize about this weekend that is strange for me to admit? I actually kind of like Mac Brown.
I've always liked Mac.
After all, I didn't really like him when he was at Texas. I just you guys liked him?
I love Mac.
Didn't have a problem with him.
Really?
I think he's hilarious.
I just never really liked him that much at Texas. I mean, I just thought he was kind of smarmy and political and
for sure.
And kind of not really a snake oil salesman, but of that ilk.
Yeah, that's just kind of how he is.
But I
think he's a genuinely nice guy.
Now that he's at North Carolina again and they won, he's like crying on the the post game interview. I'm like, wow, it's kind of a nostalgia thing too.
Yeah,
I mean, Bob's gone, Mac's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Got a douche at Texas now that really is a douche.
He's a very unlikable person.
Like Mac Brown might have killed people and buried them in his backyard. I don't know, but he could have. He was such a nice guy. He pulled it off.
Yeah, you get away with it. Like, oh, Mac. That's just Mac. That's Uncle Mac.
He kills people.
That's Uncle Mac. He's cool.
So anyway, we finally got to see Oklahoma play. It was on Sunday. Notre Dame plays tomorrow. So, but here's the thing I think Sooner fans should take away from this, guys. Tell me what you think. It ended up being a really good thing that they were the only game. The way Jalen Hurts played, because there is like this national like dick sucking that goes along with Jalen Hurts. Like everyone loves Jalen Hurts. Everyone loves him. And they want him to do well. And they want to write stories about him, even though he is the worst quote in the world. Well, not the worst, but he's not.
He's the shortest.
Yeah, he doesn't give you a lot, but it just makes people love him more. Like by the way, I feel like such a bastard after our last podcast. I had so many comments about poor Tony tonight. Not like people defending her. They still think she's nuts, but
you're doing it again.
I just feel bad.
You're doing it again already.
I feel like I went over the line. I just feel bad. I'm not gonna.
Could have been like two of them. Two podcasts ago.
And then the stuff about A.D. Miller, which Josh actually has to have his hair cut now. A.D. Miller played before.
What happens, because Eric Swenson played the majority of the second half, what if Eric Swenson starts next week? Does Josh have to get it buzz cut once and then it grows back?
No, we just buzz him once. And
Just buzz him once?
If he wants to go out to L.A., we'll do it out there. And I've got the clippers. I've got red clippers.
We can do that.
Scoop
I don't
HD.
think that'd be bad. Yeah, we can put them in front of a tripod.
But we have to cut it a certain way, kind of like rookie hazing. Like what the Bears
where you
do
take
every
pictures
year.
before.
Well, you cut it weird, like you leave certain areas, and then you get to take pictures.
Sure.
Like they make the NFL, what do they call them? Not noobs, I guess noobs or whatever. No, there's another word. Like when you're a neophyte.
Neophyte.
A neophyte. That's
Oh, yeah.
that's a frat thing, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we had neophytes at Duncan for Letterman's Club. Like you had to wear a D around your neck. Everybody had to sign it.
A what?
A D for Duncan.
Oh.
What did you think I said? A dick?
No,
You said D.
I thought you said a deer.
No,
and
a
I was
D.
like, what is that?
Like a wooden D.
Yeah.
You had to wear it around your neck, and like you'd always end up popping yourself in the face with it at some point during the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll figure out Josh's punishment or how we're going to dole it out.
That sounds good.
So, but no, I mean, back to my point was, it was a great night for the nation to see Jalen Hurts.
No, it was. He was exceptional. I mean, there was nothing I don't think that you can go back and look at outside of the fumble, obviously, and I think you probably even put the other one on him too, because it looked like it was like some of that mesh stuff that Baker had always talked about, getting on the same page. And but outside of that, I mean, I guess you could say he missed the throw to CeeDee Lamb in the end zone.
He had some happy feet early.
Yeah. But he found a rhythm, I would say. I mean, what he finished? 20 of 23?
That's what I was going to say.
Three
It's funny
passes.
because you can pinpoint every single one he missed because there's only 3 of them.
Do you think he's going to be almost, in a way, what am I trying to say here? Are we going to be too critical of the guy because of all we know is, well, they put up 700 yards again. It's like I looked up at one point and thought to myself, like, all they do is just rack up more than 600 yards a game. That's all this offense does.
I was following the game thread, and I mean, you know how that goes. That can be very dangerous because someone wants to fire someone on every play on the game thread.
It was I was the meme of what's his name Glover
coming into the pizza.
Coming in, with the pizza and like when I got to the board after the game, because the Wi-Fi in the stadium still sucks. It's still awful. But I got in there and I was like, oh my God, there's some very unhappy people in here. I thought I'd go into like basically a wonderland of excitement and enjoyment and hope.
It was that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was over after the third quarter. It was 42-17. And
It was very familiar, wasn't it?
Houston only had 221 yards of offense. People are feeling good. They end up with more than 400. They end up with 31 points without a turnover, even though Lincoln Riley said the turnover on downs thing, which doesn't count.
Counted as a turnover. They counted it as a turnover.
They count it, but that doesn't give you candy bars or whatever they're going to do.
You're not getting a free trip to Sugars out of that one.
That's like the Little League.
You're not the strip king.
It's like the which, by the way, I'm going to have a trouble awarding that on Tuesday because they didn't have a strip king this week. Presented by Sugars. I plan on doing that every month.
Oh, have you come
week.
up with that bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it was, I mean, for the most part, if you can play defense like they did in the first quarter, I think everybody can learn to love it.
I mean,
21 yards in the first quarter.
Who the hell was number 9 in the first quarter? I've never seen that guy before.
That was a big time.
That was a
defensive linebacker. In
that
college
was
football,
a
wasn't
violent offender of human life.
Jamal Adams giving him props on Twitter.
I saw that.
Really?
Yes, number 9. I like the way you play, or something like that.
Well, I mean, okay, so this was the thing that I noticed that was different, and especially early in the game. It's almost like, okay, they came out and played their asses off, and then they couldn't sustain it.
Bingo.
I mean, that's essentially what your gripe should be about the defense. But when they were out there playing with their hair on fire, like, you would see a running back or a receiver catch a screen pass, and like Trey Brown and whoever else, Patrick Fields, whoever, had like 2 blockers on him, and you could see there was open space for that receiver. Last year, he would just run through that open space, and on it, like this year, that open space closed up really fast with like 3 guys coming from the inside. Like, I haven't seen defense like that at Oklahoma in a very long time. Not to mention that Kenneth Murray was kind of one of those guys closing all the space, and then he would just violently attack the guy and throw him to the ground. Like
He perfected the clothesline.
you saw, I was like, that should be a penalty, but it's not because of the way that he threw that guy around like a rag doll.
He did it twice.
Yeah,
It was perfectly legal both times.
There was a lot to like there. There was a lot to like, and I think that everybody kind of expected. For the most part, would I be incorrect to say that Neville Gallimore had a pretty quiet night?
I thought he
or was it a productive night?
He
You
was
just don't
kind of
see
like
it in
everybody
the box?
else. Like I think the only person that really sustained their play all night, I thought, was Ronnie Perkins.
That guy,
at
yes.
different times of the game.
He's going to be a monster at some point.
To me, Neville was kind of like Kenneth Murray in that in the beginning they were both great and they were both really affecting the game. They were. Well, in Neville Gallimore, I mean, he was getting in the backfield all the time. It was a load for their offensive line to deal with. But yeah, I mean, I would say, he didn't produce from beginning to end like he did at the beginning.
The other thing I'll say,
he did have a tackle for. I mean, he was one of the few guys that had a tackle for loss and a sack.
It felt like Grinch in the fourth quarter was trying to experiment with a lot of young guys, and Houston wasn't throwing in the towel yet.
Yeah.
Houston was still attacking. And so you saw him go against those young kids and really
but that's
make
Dana
them...
Holgerson. You have a brand new coach. He's trying to set a culture there at Houston,
so it
too.
was just a little different mindset and I think Grinch even took ownership of that, saying he didn't coach as well as he needed to because that fourth quarter went off the rails.
Well, let's face it. When you get 2 straight 3-and-outs and Jalen Hurts is leading your offense up and down the field in 3 plays, you're probably sitting there like, oh, we finally figured out football. Like that's what I'd feel. I felt that way in the press box. And then you go out there and Derek King makes you lose your jock and he's 20 yards downfield and you're like, okay, maybe I didn't figure this thing out yet. And that's kind of how I felt like the night went.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I guess if you really want to nitpick, you could get angry about the late hits, and that's the kind of stuff.
There was just some stupid plays.
It's just stupid.
The Patrick Fields one, in particular, there in the north end zone.
Marquise
was really
Hayes
stupid.
blocked the guy into the stands.
Is that what that was on the sideline?
Yeah. I mean, the same thing that happened to to Trey Brown last year at West Virginia.
Turner yell, body slam.
I mean, that was so.
I mean,
unnecessary.
it's like I know you're trying to.
Patrick
be the
Fields
strip
decided he was
king.
going to kill someone.
Yeah, you want to be the strip king and set the tone and all, but
just over
the play was
aggressive.
done. The play was done.
It was also, I thought it was pretty funny too that well, I guess it wasn't funny, but they might have a kicking situation, a kicking problem that later on in the year. I mean, I was surprised that Burkich wasn't the guy, and they ran out Sutherland.
He did almost all the kicking, and you're going to have to execute some kickoff coverage this year.
Yes, that was one thing that stood out. These are not automatic touchbacks. You're going to have some
and I mean,
good
it was
coverage units.
Early, it was against the wind, but it wasn't that stiff of a wind tonight.
No, there wasn't enough. I mean, that was basically an Oklahoma wind. That's just what you're going to get in a normal day. It wasn't anything crazy.
That's Austin Seibert through the back of the end zone wind.
Yeah, it was.
And then, outside of that, I mean, I thought the other thing that really stood out to me was just this. You guys kind of touched on the substitutions. Like Alex Grinch was not afraid to throw
every
guys
series.
in
It was like, okay, who just switched? Which one of the oars is now in?
And Bob and I were sitting there tracking, and I was putting on the instant analysis, and it was somebody. I mean, it's Nick Benito at times, and then I mean, when I'll say this, like, I'm surprised that Ryan Jones played as much as he did over Deshaun White.
As early, too. I mean, it was the second series, like, oh, okay, this or actually means something with a lot of these guys.
And I will say there were times where I saw Ryan Jones flash tonight, and I was like, whoa, that's impressive. Like, that's unseen by me before.
Yeah, I thought he played pretty well from what I could tell down there. It seemed like he was around the football quite a bit, making plays.
And the other thing I talked to Jalen Hurts, I asked him about this, like the offensive line, we talked about the Marquise Hayes thing, but it wasn't the sloppy offensive line like you saw at Miami and Florida and Alabama. Like, they have just as many, if not more, young guys than these other schools have that had all these problems in week 0, week 1. I thought that was probably one of the more impressive things that happened on the day was the offensive line keeping it together.
Yeah,
They were a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
Just there in the second quarter, they switched Proctor for Swenson. I'm not saying that was the difference, but it's intriguing to know that Beatenbow made that call right in the middle of the action. I didn't see Proctor go down. I didn't see any sort of injury. I just thought it was a Bill decision to put Swenson in, and he played the entire second half as long as the first stringers were out there.
Yeah, did you notice anything, Eddie, there on Proctor? Was he on the sideline?
I couldn't tell. I never even thought about it, to be honest. I didn't even notice.
Unless Bill just didn't like the way he was playing. I mean, and Bill wasn't in the post game to answer anything about that. So
they put up 686 yards of total offense tonight, and
by the way, 11.2 yards every time they snap the ball.
Did outside of Trey Sermon had a pretty decent night. Their big stars didn't really play that well. I don't want to say play that well. They didn't produce that much. Like CeeDee Lamb's going to have. He had a very quiet night for what I believe he will have in the future.
Well, that's
2 for 46. Yeah,
that's my one criticism about the offense tonight is I want to see more involvement of CeeDee Lamb down. Like Jalen Hurts tried a back shoulder throw to him late in the game or midway through the third. I can't remember when it was. I want to see more of that. That's one of your biggest weapons, and I want to see Jalen Hurts kind of trust CeeDee Lamb down the field a little bit more.
Do you think that was by design? Almost kind of
to get him into the game.
We're just going to be vanilla. We're not going to show a whole lot.
It was short.
Yeah.
I mean, early.
Yep.
But I don't think it was vanilla, not show a lot, because I do think that this team took Houston really seriously.
Sure.
Way more so than the rest of their schedule leading up to Texas.
Yeah, I would think so. I would agree with that. I mean, Houston, they're gonna be a decent football team. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if I could sit here and say they're going to win the AAC, but
De'Aaron King probably won't face that much pressure again this year. Like OU made it their one thing that they were going to get pressure on King tonight. They were not going to allow him to get comfortable in the box.
But then they just couldn't sustain it for 4 quarters.
Yeah. Well, now Alex Grinch said, they're never going to feel bad for not making a play because they were too aggressive, which I think fans should love hearing.
But how was Alex Grinch? I didn't hear much of him. I was running around getting some of the other guys.
I mean, he was good. I mean, he was kind of like he always has been. Just he didn't want to ignore the good that happened, but he also knows that there are plenty of things that they can get better at and that they have to get better at if they want to be the defense that he thinks they can be.
Seems about right. I mean,
that's too level-headed, I know.
No, but it seems like that. I don't think you can walk out of there tonight thinking, well, this is the same old, because it wasn't. I mean, I think anybody that watched those, for the most part, the first 3 quarters left there. I mean, Bob, I don't think it's too looking at it through too much of crimson-colored glasses to say that, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a step in the right direction.
It was a big step, and the only problem is people's last impression is the fourth quarter, so they're going to tend to forget.
They were gone. They were,
They remember the first, but they also think the second and third were crap, and that's just not true. But now it's because the fourth ended so poorly, they're starting to lump the second and third with it too.
The second quarter would have been so much better if they would have kicked that field goal at the end of the half. Because that was an impressive drive. 26 seconds left. They went, I think, 54 yards.
Sermon run, the Sermon hurdle.
And what was it, a 34-yard field goal or something like that?
35 or 36, yeah.
36 maybe?
Yep. Somewhere around that.
I mean, to miss that field, I mean, that would have been such a nice little feather in the offense's cap. And as someone reminded me, I've made this horrible mistake of giving OU a field goal in my game prediction, making it 45-24 the final score. And someone said there was no way you were getting to 45 because they ain't kicking a field goal tonight.
Got to make the 30-yarder. I can understand the 51-yarder, but those got to be automatic.
You might get a week or two of that, and then when that doesn't work, start going for it on fourth down. They'll just narrow that margin. You can kick from 30 in, but that's it.
Let's go to this right now. I want to celebrate Eskridge Lexus and Eskridge, the good guys over there, always taking care of us, giving us places to, giving us cars to drive and all that good stuff. And go check out Eskridge Lexus, a great dealership here in Oklahoma City. Tell them you heard about them. And here's the thing, let me tell you this: like, don't ever feel like, oh, I'll go support Eskridge and I don't need a special deal either. Like, please tell them you heard about them on the Sooner Scoop podcast, because that's the only way that advertisers know that. Don't be modest, but that's the only. We're asking it as a favor because that's the only way that advertisers know, hey, these people came here because of the podcast. So please, if you go visit Eskridge, if you get a test drive, if you just look at the car, just say, hey, really like that you guys support the Sooner Scoop Postgame Podcast, or we heard about you on the Sooner Scoop Postgame Podcast. Just look up EskridgeLexus.com. But now it is time for this.
Eskridge Lexus is all about embracing the best. That's why they are the official travel partner of the Soonerscoop.com podcasts. So it's time for us to recognize the Sooners' best with our Eskridge Lexus Player of the Game.
Now, it's kind of hard not to recognize a record setter, and that's what Jalen Hurts was tonight. And we could even maybe expand this to the play of the game as well, if you guys want to go in that direction. But, boy, Jalen Hurts tonight, I don't know, is there, Bob, what's the context there? I didn't catch all the notes that were flying out after the game, but it's the best debut by, or is it the fourth?
It's the most yards ever for someone making their OU debut passing Baker. And then it's the most ever in a season opener for a Sooner player.
Wow.
I don't know how many people care about that stat. And then it's just the fifth most total ever.
By a quarterback, total yards by a quarterback.
508 yards of total offense for Jalen Hurts, were the most by an OU player in his OU debut, as you just said. The number that Mayfield had put up was 396 against Akron back in 2015.
Which was just kind of like
388 passing and 8 yards rushing.
Eddie, you put out that video of, first game performances of recent quarterbacks. And I remember going back and watching that Baker Akron sights and sounds. It was just kind of an okay game, you thought.
Oh, they were terrible in the first half.
Yeah.
They started so slow in
Yeah.
that game. If I remember correctly, I want to say it was like 10-0 for the longest time, or 6-0 for the longest time.
Yeah, it was that Joe Mixon touchdown.
It wasn't
that opened it up.
Yeah, it wasn't a sexy game by Baker. Like, there was some sex in this game tonight by Jalen Hurts. I mean, like, first to start out with the red spatting, I mean, that was sexy. I was all in on that. When I saw that, I was like,
all right, let's go.
That looks good.
They looked the part tonight for sure. I mean, that's going to be what you hear nationally tomorrow, because Labor Day and everybody's going to be off. And, I mean, they're going to have, I would imagine, college football specials before the Notre Dame game. What Jalen Hurts did today is the story of the weekend.
Like I said, those national people love. I mean, like, you think Paul Feinbaum's not going to be singing Jalen Hurts praises?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, forever now. I mean, not just tomorrow, all week long.
10 different receivers caught a ball tonight, I believe.
With no one with more than 3.
That's pretty impressive. I mean,
CD wants to talk to Jalen.
They've gotten to the point offensively that you know what to expect, and it's almost unfair a little bit. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Let me give a little Eskridge Lexus love to someone who I think could have had a huge night, but Jalen definitely stole some of his thunder, especially with his legs. Trey Sermon was ready to just bust out tonight. He was fantastic. But there just weren't the carries there for him tonight.
And we
it
talked
just didn't fit into their game plan the way it all worked out.
Don't you remember talking to Jay Boyer a couple weeks ago, and he said that this is probably the best that Trey Sermon had run the ball through preseason camp, and
that hurdle he had. Oh, my God!
He looks physically. He just looks cleaner. If that's a way to put it.
It is.
He's lost a little bit of weight. He's lost that. By no means am I calling the kid fat, but it looks like he is in as good of shape as he's ever been. Yes.
He's cut.
And
he was
I think that you're
built before, but now he's cut.
He's not that big finish running back now. It seems like he could be a premier type guy. And with that said, I mean, Kennedy Brooks, when he got his carries, He broke that one off there in the second half. I mean, he looked
40-yarder.
They have options back there.
Kennedy
Marcus
Brooks
Major
was ready to get going, but that was the Marquise Hayes out of bounds block that
Yes.
sidetracked him.
The second run, yeah.
And I mean,
By the way, can I
Ramondre
just say,
puts it on the ground, but he still looked good.
I don't know how apparent it was to you. Maybe the worst non-touchdown on Jalen Hurts when he was like 5 yards into the end zone and they had to go back and review it tonight.
They were going back and reviewing a lot of stuff tonight.
We need like a product that people hate to be like our FU ref, of the week, reverse mortgage, and something.
Hurts is going to take a lot of touchdowns away from Sermon and Brooks because he's not going to be afraid to lower his shoulder and score from 1 or 2 yards out.
How much better was he than you thought, I guess?
A lot.
A lot better? From a passing standpoint?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I had him right there with Kelly Bryant. Like, not right there, but like, you remember OU showed no interest in Kelly Bryant when he was going to transfer. So it was just like, I kind of thought Lincoln Riley would look at Jalen Hurts like he did Kelly Bryant. Like, he's a run guy that, doesn't pass that. And what's weird is when you go back and look at Jalen Hurts' stats, like 2016, he actually had a game where he threw for more yards than this. His first season at Alabama.
Against who?
Mississippi State.
And that's not necessarily a nobody.
Like, I can't crap on that.
Yeah, I was getting ready to think it was going to be some kind of little sister of the poor type.
But that's
school.
kind of, I mean, that's another thing. Like, that's something I want to ask him about. Like, you went from being a guy that was able to throw the ball 30 times a game your first season to being a guy that they harnessed his second year.
Yeah, and which made no sense.
Until you were beat out by a guy that, once again, threw the ball all over the place. So it's like, he can do this.
If he would give a real answer to that question, it'd be tremendous. I'm just not sure we'll get it until after the season.
Bowl game.
Yep.
Well, God, what if they played Alabama in the bowl game?
Well, I mean, that's what everybody wants, isn't it?
All anybody wants.
Oh, God. National champion. They don't want bowl game. They don't want college football playoff. They want national championship.
Sure.
They want that one,
no doubt.
one
Tua versus
two.
Jalen. I mean, would that not set every TV rating record ever?
A month of lead up. Two of the biggest.
Well, it'd be 2 weeks because they'd both have to win.
Sure.
But yeah, Paul Feinbaum would just do a special Oklahoma, Alabama collision course and like forget about Clemson and Ohio State or whoever else was in it.
That would be a network's wet dream, though. There's no doubt about that.
God. It would be like they would just have like Laura Rutledge would be outside of one of their doors, and then Maria Taylor would be out the other, and it would be like their job to have breakfast, dinner, and lunch and dinner with them every day.
God, I'm sure they
Marty
would try.
Stewart would be there living,
Marty Smith.
Marty Smith there
Marty
tonight?
Stewart is a country singer from a long time ago.
He might be.
Marty Smith was there tonight.
Yeah.
Marty Smith.
Got a pretty good.
I love Marty Smith.
He got a pretty good quote out of Riley, too.
Yeah. And Pete Thamel was there from Yahoo Sports. Dennis Dodd was there. I was waiting for him to smack me for taking a shot at him, but I don't think he knows who I am. So good.
I need to figure out a way to not let him around.
By the way, can I ask a question? I feel like it's an elephant in the room. You guys know what my comfy clothes are? Eddie, how would you describe Bob's comfy clothes?
I don't know. What do you mean?
He's got these weird sandals on.
I haven't seen them.
I don't know if these socks,
I
they're Cubs
like the
socks.
socks. Now there's the state of Illinois, aren't they?
Well, Cubs with Chicago flag.
You have a V-neck T-shirt, a very low-cut V-neck T-shirt.
Very revealing.
You look like man-horse servant. This is what this outfit I would call.
I'm not going to judge anybody. It's 2:13 in the morning.
2:15 in the
I know.
morning.
You look like man-horse servant. I mean, really, gay man-horse servant is what is more accurate. Wow, we got him to cuss on the pod. I mean, I don't know if you're gay, but I mean, you look like you would.
The track record would say no.
You look like you have a sugar daddy somewhere in Miami.
Oh shit!
I don't know.
Who knew?
I don't know what that means. I'm gonna go ahead and bow out.
Let's see if we can't get wife to work on this on the comfort clothes.
All right.
before you become someone's bitch. In Miami. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, offensively, I think we've kind of covered. We talked about running backs. Offensive line was great. Didn't have all the stupid stuff. Jalen Hurts. I don't know how many more superlatives we can throw out there about him tonight.
I want more Jaden Hazelwood.
Oh,
Bingo.
man. How about that Spidey sense move he made?
Talk to freshman. Yep.
That was a good looking play. He just has that aura about him.
He knew that the guy was coming, and he ducked, and the guy missed him. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
And he ends up being the only freshman of that quartet to have a catch with 2 for 46.
Maybe a little surprising.
A little bit. Not only just the limited action,
the
of
number
Bridges,
of snaps he took. Compared to everybody
Bridges
else.
and Weiss. You figure they were right on the cusp there with Rambo and with Lamb. They'd get some run. They really didn't. Bridges didn't get any snaps at receiver until the fourth quarter.
Well, and not for freshmen, but let's face it, the guy keeps producing ever since the end of last year. But Charleston Rambo, I know we did that roundtable, and you two guys named him most likely to become your number 2 receiver. He made a real, a real run at that title tonight.
Yeah, he made some nice plays with the ball in his hands, especially the touchdown. Obviously,
I thought on the second one he was going to split everyone and boat race
close.
everybody to the end zone.
It was close. Very close.
You think about that first one. First, he had to separate from the initial defender. Then the guy's got the angle on him, but he's still able to use the speed. That was nice. That's something, because I think OU fans are wondering who has speed on this team.
You know what's going to be interesting is him against UCLA, because they have a lot of speed in their secondary. If he has a big game against UCLA, I think that's when he becomes de facto number 2 guy.
No,
just my thought.
I love that he wore a Rambo shirt into the room because he drew first
solid.
blood. He drew first blood.
I think
tonight.
that was Toby's call too.
It was.
Oh, okay. And then other than that, guys, just the number of snaps that Jeremiah Hall took tonight.
Hall and Braden Willis played together a lot.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And I was talking to
package.
JD Reynolds, and I said, well, why is it that Jeremiah Hall played so much? And he thinks just because of Jalen's running ability, that having him in there gives him a lot of versatility. Like if he wants to run, he can be a lead blocker, but he can also max protect if he wants to go long to CeeDee Lamb. And that just seems like that's going to be a staple with as long as you got Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, that you're going to see a lot of Jeremiah Hall.
Who would have thought he'd be the guy to get the first touchdown?
No kidding. Not me. I definitely wouldn't have had him in the top 5 guys, I bet, as far as first touchdowns of the year.
Let me ask you guys. Let's do stock up, stock down. If you want to sponsor this fine segment, it's our best segment on the podcast. Feel free to give me a shout. But let's go with defense, because we've talked so much offense. And I think we can say Kenneth Murray, stock up. Ronnie Perkins, stock up.
I'm going to go John Michael Terry.
Yeah.
Much better than...
Although I don't know why they just didn't play him a lot as the game went along.
It just felt like Grinch was trying people out in the middle of a real live game where Houston was still trying to win.
Well, he's talked a lot about you don't really know what you have until you get him into a game situation.
He's like, I got to find my 22.
Yeah.
And I think the stock unknown is Jalen Redmond coming out, because he's playing a 3 technique now. He's not really your typical edge rusher.
I've got great Scoop HD with Redmond talking about that,
really?
How he basically in the last 2 weeks has accepted this role. They put it in his head in the spring, hey, we might move you inside.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't all in on that. And he went through the summer, got to camp, and it was right in the middle of camp when he realized, I think I can make this work, and I have to because that's what they're asking me to do.
You don't have much of an option, kid.
This is where you're playing now. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Nick Bonito, I'd say stock up just because he played so many snaps and I didn't see anything bad from him.
I mean, Bonito and John Michael Terry really locked down that spot.
Also, Nick Bonito had 6 tackles tonight, which puts him, in the top 5 for the defense. How about defensive backs? Where do you guys feel they failed tonight? Is anybody stock up a defensive back tonight?
I don't know about stock up, but maybe just what would it be? Leveling,
Plateauing.
a plateauing,
Not losing their job.
I mean, Parnell Motley did nothing tonight to make me think he was just awful.
Yeah.
But he also probably didn't. He had one
He had the
play that he
PI.
turned around. He had the PI that I don't even know. Was it a PI? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, he grabbed his shoulder.
Did he?
But it was a terrible throw. I mean, you could have easily ruled it uncatchable.
Did Patrick Fields play terrible? I mean,
No.
he's getting a lot of shit on the board, but I didn't really think
He
that
had
he was
the He had the pass interference. That wasn't Motley. That was Fields.
Was that Fields?
It was. He had that, and then he had the unsportsmanlike same drive.
Oh, yeah, I can see why
That's-
the board's getting
yeah,
after him then.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially just was like, okay, Houston, let's see how many times we can screw up and if we can still keep you from scoring.
Turner Yell missed a lot of tackles. The safety
I did
position
not think Turner
left
Yell had a
things
great
to
night,
be
yeah.
desired and was kind of scary. I don't know scary, but they left Fields and Turner Yell out there a lot, which means what is behind them? Anything at all?
You know what's crazy is Robert Barnes is not going to play, is he?
You gotta think he's hurt, right? I mean, he was like the only guy that didn't get some run. Broyles was out there. Jaden Davis was out there. You know, Chance Sylvie had a lot of time. Barnes is the only guy that we actually know. Like Jordan Parker was out there plenty, but Barnes didn't see any.
All right, I'm going to bring Bob into. I'm going to take a trip into Bob's world on this for my analogy. Okay, the Iron Man where the people were blowing up. Which one was that? Was that 2 or 3?
I thought it was 2.
And the little kid, and he goes to Tennessee or whatever. I want to say it's 2 because that was the. Eddie, you can just take a break. That was the. Who was Ben Kingsley? What was his nickname?
Mandarin.
The Mandarin. Yeah.
Well, that's 3.
Okay, the 3 is the Mandarin. That's when people are
Yes.
blowing up. So maybe Robert
Oh
Barnes.
yeah, with Guy Pearson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's Tony. Maybe Robert Barnes is Iron Man 3. Like he's still not over the trauma of what happened, you know, in the original Avengers movie.
And maybe I'm jumping too fast, but
Like Josh Jacobs is his not Thanos, but whatever Thanos sent.
Yeah, but Robert Barnes is one of the first people off the field tonight. So we'll see if that trend. I'd never like seeing when someone's first off the field, they're running right off.
Yeah.
They don't want to be there at all.
Okay, Eddie, you can come back.
We'll see.
No more Marvels talk. No more MCU.
That doesn't seem good. That doesn't seem good for him. That's what I've.
I decided instead of just crapping on human beings, we'll bring some nerdiness to the podcasts.
That's fine. We can do anything we want.
By the way, I don't need any other comment on this, Eddie. Just so you know, I was doing pregame radio, and we were talking about people that were hurt, and I brought up Kenneth Mann, and Jim Traber asked me what's wrong with Terrence Mann, and I said, well, he's been kidnapped by a guy that owns a cornfield.
If you build it, they will come.
Go the distance.
That's kind of creepy, Bob.
I didn't
That went through my soul almost.
I would imagine they get Man back. What, UCLA?
He was there. He
no
was
reason to play next.
Yeah,
next week.
he was there, and I mean, Lincoln did say last week, like, you know, there's a chance he could play this week. But you look at, you know, now you got Redmond and 3 tech. Like, you can use another body inside as much as they want to rotate. He could definitely help. And, I mean, as a sophomore, he had a hell of a year.
He did.
Like, but last year he just fell off the map.
Because he was asked to be a consistent
Yeah,
player.
if you
instead
can
of
play
third down
him
pass.
sparingly, I think he could be a big boost for that defense.
He's just another body in there that is an able body, more than somebody that just takes up space. Like they now have guys up there that not only have they played a lot of football down there.
Overton stuff to run today. I'm giving it up.
I think we all know where we all stand on Q Overton. He can come play on my team.
The
anytime.
run stuffer.
Look, sometimes I say stupid shit and I'm wrong. I can face the music.
But they have enough guys up there, and I do think that, you know, there was a couple times tonight that they got pressure on King. He just got out of it, or they overran it. What was it? Was Stripling had a guy just right,
Yep.
dead to right, and I think it was a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 4, and they would have got off the field.
Yep.
Like they got off the field a good amount. I have a hard time looking at tonight's performance and just finding every reason to shit on it, I guess, is probably the best way to say
or
it.
like things are the same, or they're not going to get any better.
Because it wasn't. There was so much difference out there as far as just from a effort standpoint.
You know, I mean, the thing with De'Aaron King is, like, to me, it almost seemed like he flipped okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this over switch. Like, I don't know if he was trying to run Dana Holgerson's system and he was trying to get everybody involved and just not be the guy, like, that just takes that shit over. But, like, it might have been in the third quarter, it might have been in the fourth quarter. There was a time when he started sticking his foot in the ground and just going, and you're like, whoa, that's a little different.
Yeah. Well, he's a very good. I maybe a little surprised.
Of course, he was hurt all last year too. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, he might kind of be feeling himself to see
just
if
trying
he's
to find
100%.
his. And I mean, we got to remember this is the first game for them in a new offense.
Yeah, that's right. There was one other thing. Oh yeah, let's just go through some of the injuries that we know. Marcus Major, hamstring, and he was apparently good to go.
Yeah, not severe.
Yeah, he could have gone, but they wanted to go ahead and hold him out.
But made it tough with only 3 running backs.
Yeah, I mean, and then you saw T.J. Pledger. He did, have that surgery, and we didn't. I forgot to ask Lincoln if
this will
be
something we have to Lincoln Tuesday.
If that's
running back.
any chance he comes back this year or how that works out. I'm trying to think who else outside did we report that was out. Swinson obviously can play with whatever his shoulder is because he played pretty much the rest of the game at left tackle.
I can't remember anybody
There's just
else.
some other. It just seems like there's some other randoms. Like
it was random, but it's not guys who you're looking. Like Jonathan Perkins wasn't supposed to make any sort of difference, and he wasn't dressed out, and things of that nature.
Yeah. So I think that covers most of it. And and like I said, Robert Barnes he's not there right now. I don't know if it's an ability thing, if it's a emotional thing, if it's a confidence thing, whatever. But there's reasons why other people are playing instead of him. And I don't know, it just kind of like Robert Barnes is that perfect example of that guy. Like everyone feels like he was recruited, so well. He's big, he's physical. Like
his dad
he should
was
be
a
out
captain.
there. Like, it's wrong that he's not out there.
Legacy, yeah.
When sometimes he's just not the best player.
Yeah.
All right. So any other final impressions, guys, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I think just overall it was a
South
good.
Dakota next. I mean,
Yeah, they got to bye next week.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, offensively, they're going to be really good. They probably were a little bit better than I expected them to be tonight, and especially the way that they were able to start the game. Defensively, I think there's a foundation there. There's a lot of things to like, and yeah, there was some bad wrapped in there, but for the most part, they didn't have just guys running all over the place. There weren't missing tackles every other play. It didn't seem like. It's a good starting point, and I think that they're going to be able to build off that. And I think that obviously you don't want to lose the turnover battle. You don't want to not force any turnovers, which is they're going to come. I think it's going to be one of those things that you just have to keep working at. It's not going to just all of a sudden overnight you just start forcing turnovers. It's just not like that.
And it's tough because, De'Aaron King doesn't really, a lot of the throws he makes, they're not, there are a lot of screens. There are a lot of, other than stripping a ball from a guy, I didn't see a whole lot of missed opportunities tonight.
No, I didn't either. I can't even remember any times that I felt like they were really that close, to be honest.
One was the Patrick Fields when it went through his hands.
Yeah.
But that wasn't going to count because Gallimore had roughed the passer. So
wasn't that Motley where the ball went through his arms in the end zone?
That's Fields.
Boy, we trying to blame everything on Motley these days, don't we?
Hey, you got to stick up for your boy here.
Anyway, and then there was one that would put on the turf that they could have got. I think was it Perkins that knocked the ball out?
On the sack.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they didn't jump on that one. So, I don't know. There's a lot of good. I mean, I would say like, you know, if you paid good money to go see a movie, you were wanting to see a good action movie, I'd say this is like, it wasn't Armageddon, but it was like The Rock. It had some pretty good shit in there. An old guy playing quarterback. He wasn't Scottish. It wasn't Sean Connery.
Jalen Hurts is an interesting guy.
CeeDee Lamb could be like, would he be a Nicolas Cage? Kenneth Murray would be Nicolas Cage.
Yes, at least in this game.
Yeah. Have you seen The Rock, Eddie?
The Rock, the movie?
Yeah.
From 1997.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
About the prison?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seen it.
All right. I think we've run out of stuff to talk about officially. No, it was a good opener. I think everyone, you should feel good. I mean, you should know they won the game. They didn't win it by 11. They scored that touchdown, you know, in the end to make it look a lot better.
I didn't think they would.
Yeah.
You know, they could have took a knee. I think Houston could have called a timeout, and there would have been like
there was a lot of explosive plays
left.
on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. Jalen Hurts is better than any of us thought he was, and it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to love seeing the SEC trolling that goes on throughout the weeks to come, because they ain't losing for a while.
You wouldn't think so. I mean, if they lose next week, we can just go ahead and burn the stadium down. There won't be any football to be played anymore.
We'll mess with that sellout streak if we do that.
How are they going to claim next week as a sellout?
That'll be tough. I mean, it's been every game since Bob Stoops became the head coach has been a sellout.
I thought the crowd was pretty good tonight.
Crowd was.
I thought the whiteout looked good.
It did look good, and I even was a little surprised that that people stayed as late as they did.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a strong crowd.
Probably
for probably helped. It was on a Sunday. You got a holiday tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure a lot of people's air conditioners have gone kerplunk by this time.
Ugh.
After all these
it was nasty out.
days of heat.
It was humid.
It was not fun walking to the stadium. I was happy to get up there. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it. Thanks to that does it for the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. We'll be back again next week for another one after the Sooners play South Dakota. We'll see what happens with Notre Dame in their game, but I think you can safely say the Sooners did enough tonight to stay right there squarely in the college football playoff discussion. So, Eddie?
One weekend.
It's one weekend.
One weekend.
So it's one weekend, a lot more to come. Thanks to Eddie. Thanks to our manservant, Bob Prisbillo. We will see you guys back here again next week on the Eskridge Lexus Oklahoma Sooners postgame.